The rain was coming down hard that night when Daniel stopped his pickup truck at the edge of the long-forgotten dirt road. Through the foggy windshield, the silhouette of the old farmhouse appeared, dark, broken, and silent. It looked more like a ghost's home than a place to live, but for Daniel, a single father struggling to rebuild his life after losing his wife, it represented something sacred, a new beginning. The windows were shattered, ivy crawled across the wooden walls, and the porch creaked under the weight of years of abandonment. But when Daniel stepped out, rain hitting his shoulders, he whispered to himself, "We'll make this home again, for her. For his little girl, Emily." If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of starting over, then please take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soul Tale. It helps us tell more real and emotional stories like this one. Daniel had been searching for a place far away from the noise of the city, the memories that haunted every corner of his apartment, and the pity-filled looks of friends who didn't know what to say since his wife's passing. The farmhouse, sitting miles away from the nearest town, was old but affordable, something he could fix piece by piece. He imagined Emily running barefoot through the tall grass, chasing butterflies, laughing again the way she used to. She had been only 7 when her mother died, and though she tried to be brave, Daniel often caught her talking to her mother's photograph, whispering secrets she no longer had anyone to share with. The first few weeks were a blur of hard work and aching muscles. Daniel cleared broken furniture, replaced windows, and scrubbed the dirt-caked walls until they began to look like a home again. Emily helped, painting the walls in uneven strokes, her laughter echoing through the empty rooms. But Daniel's job as a mechanic forced him to return to the city temporarily. He left the farmhouse untouched for a few weeks, locking the doors and promising Emily they'd return soon to finish what they started. He drove back to the city, worked long shifts, and saved every dollar. But when he returned to the farmhouse one cold evening in early spring, something felt different the moment he pulled into the driveway. The porch light was on. The curtains he never hung, moved slightly, as if someone inside had just peeked out. His heart began to pound. He was sure he had locked every door. Slowly, he stepped out of the truck, the gravel crunching under his boots, and made his way toward the front door. He pushed it open cautiously, and froze. Inside, there were candles burning on the table. 2 women were sitting near the fireplace, wrapped in blankets. One looked up immediately, eyes wide, startled. The other placed her hand protectively over a steaming cup of tea. Both appeared exhausted, their clothes worn, faces pale, hair tangled. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the wind howling outside and the soft crackle of firewood. Daniel's voice came out low, tense. "Who are you?" The older woman's voice trembled as she answered, "Please, don't throw us out. We didn't steal anything. We just needed a place to stay." Her name was Laura, and the younger one beside her, barely in her 20s, was her sister, Grace. They had nowhere else to go. Daniel wanted to be angry, to demand an explanation, to call the police, but something in Laura's eyes stopped him. It wasn't fear. It was the same kind of loss he saw in his own reflection every morning. Laura explained how they had been living on the road for months after escaping an abusive home. They stumbled upon the old farmhouse one stormy night and found the door unlocked, so they sought shelter, thinking it was still abandoned. They had kept it clean, fixed the leaky roof, and even planted flowers near the porch. As she spoke, Daniel's anger slowly dissolved into a quiet ache. These weren't thieves. They were survivors. He could see how Grace clung to her sister's arm, eyes downcast, as if expecting to be yelled at or dragged out any second. That night, Daniel didn't ask them to leave. He told them they could stay until they found somewhere safe. Emily, who had been sitting in the truck, soon came running in, eyes full of curiosity. She looked at the 2 women, then at her father, and smiled shyly. "Can they stay with us, Daddy?" she asked softly. It was the first time in months Daniel had seen her smile like that, innocent, bright, alive. He couldn't say no. That night, the farmhouse no longer felt empty. Days turned into weeks. Laura helped Daniel repair the house. She had a gentle touch with woodwork and often sang while she worked, old country tunes that filled the rooms with warmth. Grace spent time with Emily, teaching her how to draw wildflowers and braid her hair. They cooked meals together, laughed over burnt pancakes, and shared stories under the glow of lantern light. For the first time since his wife's death, Daniel began to feel something he thought he'd lost forever: peace. But the peace didn't last long. One afternoon, when Daniel returned from town with supplies, he found a car parked by the farmhouse gate, a dark sedan. A man stood near it, shouting at Laura and Grace, his voice sharp and threatening. Daniel rushed forward, stepping between them. The man, Laura's ex-husband, reeked of alcohol and rage. He screamed that they had no right to hide here, that he'd take them back. Laura's face was pale with terror, Grace was trembling. Daniel told him firmly to leave. When the man lunged forward, Daniel didn't hesitate, he pushed him back, warning him never to return. The man spat on the ground, glared, and drove off, tires spinning on the gravel road. After that day, something changed between them all. Laura thanked Daniel with tears in her eyes, and Grace hugged Emily tightly, whispering that they finally felt safe for the first time in years. But Daniel knew safety couldn't last if that man came back. So, he helped Laura file a restraining order, contacted local authorities, and offered them a small guest house on the edge of his property, a place that could be truly theirs. They refused at first, not wanting to be a burden, but Daniel insisted. "You fixed this place more than I ever did," he told them quietly. "This is your home too." As the seasons changed, the farmhouse blossomed into something beautiful. The once dead garden bloomed with wildflowers. Emily and Grace spent afternoons painting the fences white. Laura and Daniel often worked side by side, sometimes in silence, sometimes sharing small smiles that said more than words ever could. They became a family, one built not by blood, but by kindness, healing, and second chances. Months later, Daniel stood on the porch, watching the sunset stretch across the golden fields. Emily was chasing Grace's puppy through the grass, their laughter echoing through the evening air. Laura stepped out beside him, holding 2 mugs of coffee. "It doesn't feel abandoned anymore," she said softly. Daniel smiled. "Neither do we. Life